So it kind of feels weird that we're going to record a podcast without Brack. But, you got to look at Brack's excuse for being absent at the same time. I mean, all he had to do was move everything he owned to a different country. I mean, it's such a poor excuse. I mean, for God's sake, stabbing yourself in the eye with a knitting needle, that's an excuse. Getting your balls bitten off by a cougar, that's an excuse.
What kind of cougar? The animal kind or, the human kind?
Well, considering the fact that you get your balls bitten off, I would say either. Lair of the Radiophonic Sea Creatures. Spit out a cloud of ink when threatened, because I, Tokyo Choo-Choo, am going to be your host today. And with me, as always, is a man who can never quite grasp that a sea cucumber isn't actually a cucumber. It's Human Metal. How you doing, Human Metal?
Doing fine. You want some of that sea cucumber? It's delicious. Also, spit out ink from where exactly?
Well, if you've eaten a really bad curry the night before,
and I think we've all been there.
Yeah, for sure. Also, guesting with us this week to fill in for an absent Brack, representing Outlaw Gamer Society from the United States of America, but currently residing in Taiwan, weighing in 130 pounds, he is the heavyweight, geeky, stuttering champion of the world, Alexander Arts!
I'm happy to be the first guest. It's a historic event.
Yeah, it is.
Indeed.
Do you have any ink spewing out of your backside?
Out of excitement.
A little bit. Just a little.
Happy to hear that.
Yeah, me too. Happy to hear that. I'm kind of envious because you got such an epic intro. I mean, Choo-Choo went all out on that one. What's up with that? Why don't Breck and I always get stuff like that?
When you're the world heavyweight champion of geeky stuttering, I will give you the appropriate.
Okay, so we need a title first, yes?
Yeah, you need to actually fight Alexander to death, but the way you do it is you just stutter at each other. So
that's all, folks.
So Human Metal.
Until we vomit.
Oh goddamn! See, we're 5 seconds into the podcast and we've already got vomiting and chronic diarrhea within the first 5 seconds. So
Human Metal, living up to all expectations.
What have you been up to recently?
Wait, who? Me?
Considering the fact that you're Human Metal, yes.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, if you mean entertainment-wise, well, I guess the thing I would like to talk about today is something that happened half an hour ago, basically. Well, an hour ago, okay. As a new Nintendo Direct aired on the webs and announced not big things, but some interesting things. There's a new Fire Emblem game coming for the 3DS, which might interest some people. A bunch of puzzle games, which I don't give a shit about. But yeah, downloadable Wii games. So if you haven't gotten your hands on some of those classic Wii titles yet, you can do that soon over Wii U as well, and you don't need a hard copy for that. You can download it directly from the eShop. And what's especially interesting that the Metroid Prime trilogy is in there. So I immediately went on Twitter and said, "Oh, people, get rid of your super overpriced hard copies of that game, because there's gonna be not that expensive that much longer, unless you're a real collector and want a hard copy of that. But just for playing it, you will soon be able to download that from the eShop. So that's nice. I welcome that. New footage for Xenoblade Chronicles X looks fucking amazing. I was worrying a bit if the setting this time around is a bit more generic than in the first Xenoblade Chronicles, but no. So many great locations in that new trailer. It looks fucking amazing. Can't wait for that game. Yeah, then of course we got some new release dates and stuff. So new 3DS is hitting America and Europe on the 13th of February. And the same as the 3D remake for Majora's Mask, actually. And that this time around actually supports a 360-degree camera control if you have a new 3DS, so you can actually move the camera around, Link, in that game now. That should be interesting. Well, at least if you have a new 3DS. And yeah, they also announced a super pretty Majora's Mask Special Edition new 3DS in gold with a special Majora's Mask emblem on top, and I want that, but I don't have the money for that. I'm very sad. Oh, that's coming out on the same day as well. So 13th of February, people, if you're interested in Majora's Mask 3D, mark that date in your calendar.
Isn't it kind of annoying, though, that Nintendo are kind of like procrastinating with new Zelda games to release the older Zelda games? I mean, one Zelda game, the Ocarina of Time, like the 3D remake, I think that was more than enough. I don't know. Majora's Mask was, I think, a kind of, I wouldn't say it was a sequel that felt a bit like an expansion pack to the original Ocarina of Time, using the same assets, basically creating a new game with the same assets. I mean, I know some people are fans of it. I personally thought it wasn't such a great game. It had some great moments, but I think in Majora's Mask specifically, you had the whole trading system, which I think was a part of the main meat of the game, but that never really interested me. So what you're left with is just a straight slug of dungeons if you kind of disregard that. So I personally thought it was one of the weaker ones. But getting back to my original point, are you guys happy with the way that they're kind of treating Zelda? We're just constantly re-releasing games that we've already played, rather than kind of, it seems like the power that they spend re-releasing those games could be better spent making a new Zelda game. What do you think about that?
Alexander, you want to get in on that first?
Yeah, I don't know, like, I really like the old ones. I don't know, I kind of feel okay with people releasing things, because when they do something like Wind Waker, where, I like that game a lot, and I think re-releasing an older game like that, it can introduce it to a lot of people who never played the original version. So, I mean, I think there's value in that.
The thing is, like, when I come at this situation, I always look at it very myopically, like, through my own standpoint. So, you're right, there are tons of kids who have never played Ocarina until this current generation with the 3D remake, and there are tons of kids that probably have never played Majora's Mask either. So kids who are like 10, 12, shouldn't they get the chance to play Majora's Mask? So actually thinking about it, yeah, I mean, it's a bit selfish when I just say, yeah, fuck it, I've already played that game, what the fuck are they wasting their time for? Because there are tons of kids who haven't played that game and would like to play it.
I agree with you about the allocation of resources, though, because I don't want to remake over a new game either.
And to be fair, that's not what's happening, right? I mean, we had, of course, Ocarina of Time 3D, but Link Between Worlds didn't take so long before that came out. It didn't take so long before that came out for 3DS.
That was supposed to be a remake too, though, wasn't it?
Well, no, that is really a sequel. I mean, it has some of the same mechanics, but it's not like they just use some those assets and just upscaled them, redid the 3D models and the polygons. They really created a completely new game, just set in the same world.
Yeah,
and
I thought that they had started the project as a remake and
could be, yeah, sure.
It.
I don't know, but yeah. But yeah, that they did that was definitely a smart choice. But yeah, what I want to say initially was we're not missing out on new Zelda games. I mean, it always took a while before Nintendo put out, it took Nintendo a while to put out new Zelda games. And I don't feel that we're waiting longer just because we're getting remakes of the old stuff. We're just getting that additionally to the new stuff, and I don't mind that. I welcome that, actually, and I kind of hope, even though I was not the biggest fan of that game, I kind of hope they do a HD remake of Twilight Princess as well, because that was another, a GameCube game, but I doubt they will do that, because in terms of upgrading the graphics, I think that's much more complicated than Wind Waker. Just to make it really look good, they probably have to put a lot more work in that, and I don't know if they can actually justify that in terms of this time resources and money they have to put into that, so we'll see. But yeah, I don't mind the 3D remakes for the 3DS. I liked Majora's Mask actually quite a lot. I look forward to the updated graphics, even though I was not, super content with the final result that was Ocarina of Time 3D, because I think they messed up some of the coloring in that game. It was way too bright. It was way too colorful, and especially the final battle against Ganon, was way too bright. Like that on the N64, that part had a very dark, very threatening, very intense atmosphere, where he, just bursts out of the rubble at the end and transforms into this giant creature. You don't even see him. You just see his silhouette when he on the N64, and on the 3DS you just see his full model, and it's full color, and it's very bright, and it just doesn't feel the same way. It feels very, I don't know. It doesn't feel didn't feel as strong, and I think that's something they downgraded for that version. Just mishandled.
It's almost kind of like when he bursts out the rubble at the end. It's almost kind of like a shadow monster or something, I remember
exactly.
those huge white eyes, but the rest of him's kind of cloaked in darkness.
Exactly, and that's not what it looks like in the 3D version. You can just full on see him, and it doesn't look as intimidating and stuff like that.
So basically, they turned him into Grunty from Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah, maybe a bit.
I guess that's the problem, though, with remaking stuff, is there's a lot of times that kind of stuff is going to happen. Because there's tons of graphical things that, like, they decide, we didn't really want... It's like the George Lucas effect, I guess. Like, they're like, we should have made that more colorful.
Or sometimes it's just limitations, stuff they can't, adapt very well from one, system to another. I can't. Same thing happened with 3D remake of Star Fox for 64, actually, where suddenly the explosions in that game looked horrible for the 3D version. Like, I don't understand. It was for the N64 were like these the explosions were like these massive fireballs, and that were kind of impressive. And suddenly in the 3D version, they looked really flimsy. It's just weird.
It's just a quick flash of a screen grab from a Michael Bay movie.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. Michael Bay has much more impressive explosions than that. So yeah.
So basically speaking, if you can take anything away from this, it's this. Forget that Zelda shit and go and play Metroid Prime Trilogy, because that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, pretty much. Especially if we're talking about Nintendo here, so it could still be incredibly overpriced when they release it as a download title, but I'm pretty sure it won't go $400, which it's going for on eBay sometimes.
I have that game, so I'm getting out on eBay ASAP. Actually, tell a lie, I probably would not part with that. But talking about a cash grab or a bad kind of financial incentive in Japan, the Metroid Prime trilogy wasn't released as a trilogy. They were all released as full-priced individual remakes on the Wii. That totally sucks.
Yeah, kind of.
Never mind.
At least in a bigger quantity then, or were they just as rare?
I think probably just as rare. I've seen one or two copies on the store shelves and stuff, but Metroid just is not popular out here except for amongst a very, very niche market. It's more popular in the West, always has been. So, how about you, Alexander Arts? What have you been up to?
Most recently, I got a Divinity Original Sin on the Steam sale. That's a computer RPG, if you guys don't know.
An RPG that you play on your computer? Tell me more!
Yeah.
A computer RPG? What are you, straight from the 1970s?
No, that's actually the genre name, CRPG. It's like the old BioWare games like Baldur's Gate, right?
I've been playing those computer games.
Yeah. It's a stupid genre name, I agree. Anyway, the cool thing about that game is it's the only one like that you can play multiplayer, so you can kind of drop in, drop out co-op. I've been playing this with my dad. I live in Taiwan, he lives in America, so it's something we can do together. And I think my dad got me into gaming in the first place. I used to watch him play Dungeon Master when I was like 3. And whenever he'd see like a new monster, I'd run upstairs like out of the basement crying and stuff because I'd be so scared of it. Anyway, most recently we've been playing we played Minecraft together. We play Civilization together sometimes, and he's like 60 something. So I'm 30, he's 60. We're playing these online games, and I don't know. It's a cool thing. The only problem is like now he's like 60, so he's getting older, and he's getting to be like fussy about every little thing. He's like, these controls suck. I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, I can't click on this thing. I'm like, well, like if you hold control, you can like, it'll make sure you only do an attack. And then he just keeps having all these problems with like accidentally walking places instead of hitting the guys. And I'm like, Dad, stop being old. God damn it.
Oh man, I got a classic story about fathers in video games. So my father was always that type of guy who was like, why don't you go outside and play some sports? Like, it's like, you've been playing that thing for 3 hours. Why don't you go out to the park with your friends? I'm like, Dad, whatever. And so he was always going on to us about how video games rot your brain or whatever. And then one day he came in, and I think my brother and I were playing Gran Turismo on the PlayStation 2 or something, and he was like, oh, that's the new BMW there, or something like that. Because he's big into cars. And we're like, yeah, you should play this game. And then we gave him the controller, and he played for like 15 minutes or something with us, and disappeared off. And we were like, oh yeah, that was cool. Dad played games, nice. And next thing we knew, he'd bought a PlayStation 2, and he was like, with a copy of Gran Turismo. Like several months later, he 100%ed Gran Turismo. 100%, yeah.
That is possible?
Yeah, that's including the endurance races where you have to race like 24 hours.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he just paused it, basically put the controller down and then continued when he could. We were just like flabbergasted. But on the plus side, we never heard him complain about video games ever again.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it's cool when you can get someone into games that you didn't expect like that.
Yeah, my mother never forgave us though.
Well, I was lucky in terms of when it came to my dad, because he was already interested in gaming from the beginning. He actually was the one who got me some of the computer games. He just didn't like violent games. He was very strict about that. He once deleted a game from his hard drive just because he thought it was a violent name, just because of its name, because it was named Blast. And turns out it was just a Breakout clone. So,
hey Dad, come and play this. It's called Manhunt.
No, but he gave me he had like IndyCar racing for me and Stunt Island, stuff like that. He installed that for me on his PC. Got that from some of his friends, from his computer friends, and so I could play it on his PC. So he was always fine with that. So that was cool. And,
well, my dad is definitely not anti-violent. Like when I was like 4 or 5, we used to play a 2-player fighting game on the Atari ST computer, and he used to like decapitate me every time. And that game was nasty because you'd get decapitated and your head would fall on the ground, and a little guy would come out and kick your head off screen.
The title of that game was Barbarian.
Okay, yeah. And I used to cry every time he'd decapitate me.
That's what you get for not listening to me, son!
So I guess I'm going to go next with what I've been doing. So I'm going to talk about a game that is absolutely fantastic, and I polished off within 2 nights. It just totally caught my attention. It's only January, but it's already, nominated itself for a possible game of the year, and that is The Swapper, which was recently promoted free on PlayStation Plus, which is where I got it. Shit,
the game that haunted your dreams.
Yeah, it did. I had a weird dream where I was being chased by Ash from Alien around the kind of the claymation setting of the Swapper, which is weird.
I thought of Ash Ketchum from Pokemon. That would be even weirder.
Exactly.
Him and his freaky balls. I've got small animals in my balls. They're gonna come out.
I can't control them. They want to be your friends.
Oh God, no! Keep your balls away from me, you sick fuck. So the Swapper is awesome. The Swapper, for those that don't know, it's like a 2D side-scrolling puzzle game, much in the same vein as Portal, with its mind-boggling puzzles. Puzzles start out very easy at the beginning, become insanely difficult by the end, and I'm talking insanely difficult, bordering on impossible. Thank God for online guides, that's all I can say. Anybody who's played and finished the Swapper knows that room with the 4 switches, 2 upside down, 2 the right way up, pasted onto each other, opens the 4 doors. Anybody now who's played the Swapper is burying their head in their hands. Fucking hell, that is the spawn of Satan, that puzzle. Like, that is literally the most difficult puzzle I ever came across in video game history. Hands down, I could not solve it. Came into the room, it was like, oh yeah, this looks relatively easy, 4 switches, no problem. 3 hours later, I was like, this is actually impossible. There is no solution to this puzzle.
The solution is to find yourself.
Oh man, it's certainly a tester. Even after I had to go online and found the solution, it still took me another 40 minutes to actually implement the solution. It's that brutal. But that aside, it's phenomenal. The atmosphere is wonderful. It's like you've been set loose on the set of the Alien or Event Horizon or something. It's got that really kind of scary SF vibe going to it. And I know it's claymation and 2D, but somehow that atmosphere sinks in. It really does. I mean, you have that same isolated feeling that you have in the Metroid games, but kind of ramped up significantly. And it's got a beautiful soundtrack. It's got this ghostly kind of piano soundtrack that wafts through the halls like you're in an abandoned cathedral or something. The plot line is really, really great. It's got a really fantastic story that's very kind of deep into kind of the tradition of sci-fi not giving you the answers. So even at the end of the Swapper, it doesn't tie everything in a neat little bow like Christopher Nolan. So Christopher Nolan can fucking learn lessons from the Swapper. It actually has some open-ended stuff, and it leaves you to kind of decide for yourself what happened there. What was that about, really? And the kind of themes and the subtext of the game. So for a 2D puzzle game, it's an amazing story. I mean, you really, truly want to know what happened. You know, where is everybody? What happened on board that space station? Something happened. And the end result is just fantastic. If you have PS Plus, for God's sake, do yourself a favor and download the Swapper. Because don't let that one pass you by, because it's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool, and it is pretty creepy.
Yeah.
My girlfriend was watching me play it, and she was like, ugh, I don't like this. she got creeped out by it.
It is creepy because it has that Event Horizon alien thing going on, but it's also beautiful too, because there are no bad guys on the ship, so you never have to fight anything. And somehow it just has this profound kind of loneliness of space thing going on, you know.
Well, there's also something creepy about, like, you cloned yourself, you're running out of the door, and you're like watching your clone like fall to its death.
Yeah.
And you're just like, fuck that guy.
That's kind of the crux of the issue, isn't it? You know. God damn it. I'm not going to spoil the story. I could go into details, but what the story does is very interesting and really actually quite a deep and profound story lurking within the Swapper. So I highly recommend you continue and push through. Just beware of that room with the 4 switches in it. And with that, we're going to move out the shallows and into the depths. Back to the depths. So, today on the depths, we're going to be talking about our most anticipated items for 2015. Yeah, so we're going to jump straight into things because, quite frankly, the Shallows were so long that it feels like a whole bunch of days have passed since we last did the Shallows. So, Human Metal, why don't you tell us what's first on your list?
The first item on my list is Batman Arkham Knight. I actually like pretty much all of the trailers that have come out over the past few months, and I think it still looks incredibly fun. I don't mind the car combat. I know there's some, if there's too much of it in there, it could be a bother. But so far, I don't mind. It looks like the multiplayer for Transformers War on Cybertron game. And I enjoyed that immensely. And if the Batmobile handles like that, it could be a lot of fun. And I expect, because I've seen that in some of the trailers, there will be obstacle traversal with the Batmobile and, racing and stuff like that as well. Maybe actually, hunting down criminals in their cars and stopping them. I hope that happens too. So I hope there are a lot of varied ways to use the Batmobile and not just, to get into a building and or fight those fucking tank thingies, and I expect Rocksteady to deliver. So, yeah, and of course the usual Arkham gameplay looks fun as hell, and there are probably some new gadgets in there sprinkled in here and there to make use of, and some new action combo moves and stuff like that. Yeah, I really looking forward to Arkham Knight. I want to see how the story turns out, and who the Arkham Knight actually is, and I hope it's not too disappointing and it turns out to be the Joker again. And yeah, definitely, I want to play that game, and looking forward to it.
I guess I'm kind of looking forward to it too. I enjoyed the previous Batman games quite a lot. I'm not overly fussed about the Batmobile gameplay. I think my fear is that I've never really played a really good vehicular combat game. So I've not played War on Cybertron. And, what vehicular combat games I have played usually involved kind of like circle strafing around stuff. And that just, I don't know, it feels really kind of tiresome. And especially looking at the Arkham Knight footage, kind of looks like a giant tank that he's driving around. So I can imagine, there's that scenario where you enter into a kind of arena and a bunch of the Arkham Knights, tanks come at you and you kind of circle strafing them around them and, like blowing them up. And, man, I had enough of that in the N64 era. Like,
well, you are aware that the Batmobile basically has two modes in that game. Like, you can switch on the fly, which I think is pretty neat. You can always switch between the tank mode and the pursuit mode. And if they implement that well, actually, if you can take tighter turns during the pursuits while quickly switching to tank mode just for the turns and stuff like that, if they have cooked up something like that, that could be cool. And if it's just not the tank gameplay for like a long stretch of the game, like forcing you in terms of story to do that, then it could be a chore. But other than that, it might be fun.
It's all about implementation. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I think there's definitely scope for a good Batmobile style game. I know Alexander Arts has this really irrational hatred against the Batmobile. He shouldn't be fucking driving, but
he doesn't even have a license. His butler drives him everywhere. It's not safe.
For me personally, like, if they replace the Batmobile with the motorcycle, I might like that more, because it'd be more, like, easy to hide, and it could go even tighter corners, get into smaller alleys and things like that, and it would also be, like, it wouldn't be as strong, so it wouldn't be, like, a gameplay thing where it's like, why would he ever get out of the car?
They could give the enemies weapons that are more effective against the Batmobile than against him in hand-to-hand combat, like, I don't know, maybe rocket launchers or EMPs or something that just disables the Batmobile, and you can't use it anymore. I think, and I'm pretty sure they will do stuff like that you are basically, that being in the Batmobile doesn't give you an advantage anymore at a certain point, so that you have to use the other gameplay. I'm pretty sure they will cover their bases in that regard.
I think if they get it right, they could really get something special. I mean, we haven't had a good Batmobile game yet. I think the closest that there ever was to being a good Batmobile game was the Sega CD version of Batman Returns, which itself was pretty damn awful, frankly. But
never played it.
Yeah, you don't want to, especially not these days. It was mildly impressive back in the day, but not now. Yeah, but so I think everybody wants to kind of drive around in the Batmobile, because the Batmobile is a really cool piece of the Batman lore. And if they make it well, and the Batmobile is something that you enjoy playing with, or being a part of, and then if they destroy it like they do in most of the Batman films, especially if you feel like invulnerable when you're in there, that type of thing, and then somehow in the story it gets destroyed
cool.
at the right moment, and then suddenly you feel vulnerable, and outweighted by your enemy. That could be an awesome piece of like plot mechanic if they get it right. That's what I would do if I was writing the game.
That sounds cool. I like that idea.
And plus, I demand it has those grappling hooks that come out the side so it can turn around corners sharp. I want that.
Yeah, that would be totally cool.
And you could take out guys with them as well.
And you could climb up the side of the buildings.
No, nothing from the Schumacher movie. Alexander Arts, what's first on your list for most anticipated?
Metal Gear Solid: The Phantom Pain. I was kind of being skeptical for the Phantom Pain from the footage we saw where they're using the Fulton balloon system and picking up goats and tanks and stuff, and I just thought it was so silly looking. And then I got Ground Zeroes on sale. Since I didn't pay full price for that game, like I was really impressed with it, and I wasn't like thinking about how expensive it was the whole time, which I think ruined a lot of people's opinion of the game. And I'm ready to play a full game of that because, obviously it was very limited. You can beat it really fast, but the gameplay and the graphics and everything that's in there, a really awesome like vertical slice of what the full game is probably going to be like. So I'm pretty excited for that.
I didn't pick up Ground Zeroes myself, and I'm not really interested in picking it up. Maybe, I don't know, maybe after I play the full Metal Gear game, I might go back and try it. But I think that the ethos behind Ground Zeroes really pisses me off. Basically, it's a demo that you have to pay for. When you think back to like the PS2 and, when you had that demo, the ship demo from Metal Gear 2, right? It was an amazing demo and gave people a taste of the game, got them really fired up, and probably sold a lot more copies of that game. And it just shows you how much time has changed, that they basically have done the same thing with Ground Zeroes, but this time you have to pay for it, and pay, like when it was new, pay a shit ton more than it should have been priced at. So I can't support that type of game development with my money.
The price was way too high. Also, was Metal Gear 2 like a standalone demo, or wasn't it with Zone of Enders?
I think it was with Zone of Enders initially, but I think I got to play it because I got it on the front cover of a PlayStation magazine. I think it came with like the official PlayStation magazine in UK. It had a demo on it as well.
So. I remembered getting the Metal Gear 1 demo in a magazine, and that was free. That was awesome. But I guess, you still have to pay for the magazine. You have to pay for Zone of Enders.
Oh, well, yeah.
I think most people who bought Zone of Enders, I don't think they even like played Zone of Enders. They just wanted to play that demo.
Zone of Enders wasn't a bad game, actually. And it gets overshadowed by the demo that came with it, but it wasn't a bad game.
If they had put
the second one was even better.
If they put Ground Zeroes out really cheap, like $1 or $2, I think most people would be okay with that.
Oh hell yeah! If they released it for like $5 or something, I might have picked it up at $5.
Well, I picked it up because I got a review copy of it, so I could write a review on it, and otherwise I wouldn't have picked it up at all. Like you two, that's just it's so funny to me, like how they try to justify this. The story you can finish in like 1 or 2 hours max, but you can do so much other stuff in that game, like. Yeah, but those are little mission stuff. That is not. Those are in every game these days. Like in every open world game, like GTA or whatever you want to name in terms of like or Skyrim or whatever. And those have a giant story portion besides that, besides all that stuff. And that's why they cost. That's why the price is justified for those. But like, making the story part of the game like 1 hour. I've seen people beat it in half an hour, I think. It's like, and then you can do this mission over and over again and have, better runtime or whatever and make it better yourself. And you're like, come on.
That doesn't justify
standard today.
Yeah, that
doesn't justify the price at all.
Frankly, you can do that with any game. Like
Right,
games that cost
Yeah.
$2, you can just play over and over again.
But
So-
the funny thing I can say though is I rarely do that with other games, but with Ground Zeroes, because it's so limited, I've been playing like there's an assassination mission that I've been just playing over and over and over, and I've played it like for hours and hours trying to beat that one mission like perfectly.
Mhm.
And so I don't know, I'm getting a lot of out of it, just out of my own, want to improve my skill at the game, but I still don't agree with the price. I don't think it justifies the price at all.
So getting back to the main game that everybody's anticipated for. That's not right.
Anticipating?
Yeah, anticipating. Anticipated, a bit too close to constipated. Anyway,
That's how I feel about Metal Gear.
you got constipated?
A little
You got
bit.
too much.
I can't get it out. They can't get it out.
Wait. So I have a checkered history with the Metal Gear franchise. At some point we should do an entire podcast actually dedicated to the Metal Gear franchise. That would be fun. But of course, like everyone in their right mind, I loved the first game. It was a fucking one of those games that just totally redefined adventure games. So just fantastic. A lot of people hate it too. I loved it. Of course, the end, the final third turns into a fucking incoherent mess. But
I like that too. Even the incoherent mess was fun.
Well, parts of it is fun. I can't say I love it, but actually somehow though, bizarrely, that is my favorite Metal Gear game, number 2. Because I don't know, the big shell or whatever just has such a wonderful atmosphere. I love that. And then somehow I was totally bored out my ass with part 3. Like, I know people are like, yeah, it's the best one, but I just couldn't. I did not like Snake Eater. I forced myself through it and finished it, but I didn't like it. And then 4th, gameplay was great. Story was just infuriating just because there was so much of it, and it just got so caught up in those like small little details. So much small intricate details that you end up losing the broader picture. And like, literally I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on. And then, of course, I've mentioned before the story where I finished it at 3 o'clock in the morning and desperately needed to go to bed, and we're still watching the cutscene at 5 o'clock in the morning. It was like, fucking hell! At one point, I swear to God, I was literally shouting at the screen, "End! Fucking end!"
I don't care about the stupid Mr. and Mrs. Smith shit.
No.
Yeah, you're like calling in late for work. I'm sorry, but this
Metal
game
Gear.
won't fucking end.
Yeah. But it's been a while since 4. It's been a long, long time since 4. And I think Metal Gear Solid is one of those games that as a hardcore game player, I mean, you've got to play it. I mean, it's such a huge monumental release for people who love the history of video games like me. Yeah, so Human Metal, what's your opinion on?
I'm looking forward to it, but I need to play Peace Walker first. I want to get my hands on the Metal Gear Ultimate Collection anyway, because I want to replay those other games as well. But yeah, when I played Ground Zeroes, I had no idea what the fuck was going on, who the new characters were and everything, and what had happened before. I mean, there was this small introduction, that tries to catch you up on the events that happened in Peace Walker. And like, I have no idea what they're talking about. It's like, nope, don't get it. But yeah, other than that, the gameplay looks great as expected, and yeah, that's what I want.
Personally, my want for that game is for Kojima to pull himself in and not get overly elaborate with the story like Metal Gear 4, because I don't want that experience again. And of course, badass boss fights. We got to have badass boss fights in there.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So
staple of the series. So
I don't think he's ever
there.
failed in that department. At
No.
least.
I don't think so. I think that's the one of the saving graces of those games. You know, they all have fantastic bosses. So we're going to come on to the next item on the list, and that's going to be one of mine. So the first thing I'm looking forward to is Game of Thrones. So I should preface this by saying I'm behind everybody else. So I live in Japan. So watching the Game of Thrones when it's actually aired is pretty much impossible for me. So the first opportunity I really get to watch Game of Thrones is when it's released on Blu-ray and DVD, which is February. So it's going to be season 4 for me. So probably everybody else is looking forward to season 5. So no spoilers for season 4, please, of Game of Thrones. So yeah, I love Game of Thrones. I think Game of Thrones is making Human Metal cough. But sorry. But I think Game of Thrones is one of the best. I don't know. One of the best TV shows ever made. I was going to say the best TV show ever made, but I'm not sure about that actually. But it's definitely one of the best, and I think in the future, Game of Thrones will be a timeless thing. There's some shows that are absolutely fantastic, like Breaking Bad, for example. Breaking Bad is the first time you watch it. Breaking Bad is absolutely fantastic. I mean, you just want to binge watch the whole thing in one go. It's just absolutely awesome. But I find going back to watch Breaking Bad again after you've already watched it, there's something missing when you come back to it. I mean, it's still great. It's fantastic, but that surprise element, that kind of really compulsive element kind of disappears. And I think Breaking Bad will kind of remain of its time. So when you get 10 years down the line, I think it will be more dated, I think. But Game of Thrones, I think, will remain a timeless thing that you can watch again and again and again, like, for example, Star Wars or Harry Potter or whatever. And yeah, so I'm a big Game of Thrones fan. I want to see what happens to those characters. I think it's a really well-made show. It has fantastic art design that is extremely rare in TV shows. Yeah, I'm just anxious for more. So, Human Metal, I know that you're probably wanting to disagree with me about Breaking Bad, so fire away.
I don't agree that, Breaking Bad doesn't have a merit, in terms of rewatching it. No. See, Game of Thrones, in my opinion, is a different kind of appeal as a TV show. There are surprises in that show that will be, ruined as well if you've already seen it. So you know what's coming in a lot of regard, especially when it comes to character deaths in that show, because those happen, and the first time they happen, they're kind of surprising, and you're like, yeah, okay, no, everybody, is free game, so everybody can die in this, and but you don't know who will die in the end. But if you've watched it, and you know what's coming, and you know that certain characters are not gonna stick around, so you will be, that's a huge hook for this series, that characters you don't expect to die suddenly die. And I mean, in that regard, if you rewatch Game of Thrones, that sensation will be gone too, because you know that those people will already die. So in that regard, you could say the same thing about Game of Thrones as you can say about Breaking Bad. Some of the appeal, some of the tension is lost when you rewatch it, but there's still enough in there that merits a rewatch, because may it be character interaction you didn't pick up on before, like little bits here and there that expand certain characters and shows you some new facets about them and stuff like that. And the same thing goes in my opinion, for Breaking Bad. The way the story is going, and the ending, which was the main drive behind watching it for the first time. Maybe for some people, for me it was the characters themselves, because they were so fucking appealing in that show. And yeah, that still exists. And I recently rewatched it with two friends of mine who hadn't seen it yet, and I picked up on so much stuff that I didn't pick up on the first time, like in terms of how the characters interact, how they are written, how they develop, how the story progresses in certain scenes that before, like, that's how he knew that would happen, blah, and stuff like that. So definitely Breaking Bad was not the same experience when I watched it, but it did hold up and had some new stuff in store for me. So yeah, sure, I think that works for Game of Thrones for maybe different reasons, or will work for it in the future, but I think it will also work for Breaking Bad. I think both those shows will stand the test of time, and you will be able to watch them in the future and enjoy them.
Yeah, interesting. You see, I'm on my third run through of Game of Thrones, within 3 years, basically, because I tend to, whenever the box set's about to be released, I'm like, shit, yeah, let's go back through Game of Thrones again to remind myself of what happened. So, and
I only rewatched it once so far before the fourth season came out.
Yeah, I just, for some reason, I just don't get tired of Game of Thrones. Like, I
That's cool.
Can't quite place my finger on it, but it's like Harry Potter, for example. Like, I can watch Harry Potter again and again and again. Like, every Christmas, hey, shit, let's run through the Harry Potter films with my kids. Like, just, I don't get tired.
And for a lot of the people, it's a lot of the same with a lot of the Rings movies. So,
yeah, those kind of suck, but. But yeah, especially the third one. But anyway, that's another topic for another day. So, Alexander Arts, tell us what's next on your list for most anticipated.
I'm looking forward to Witcher 3. Witcher 3, I liked Witcher 1 and 2. They both had a lot of flaws and pissed me off a lot. It's probably the only game that I like so much that also made me so angry. Which is weird. The thing that's cool about it is just like how, I guess it's part of it's because it's based on a book, part of it because it's coming from Poland and maybe they have some cultural differences that just translate into something that you don't see every day. But like the way the game is structured is like, sometimes you feel like they've never played a game before. You're like, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. Sometimes it's like, why didn't you just copy every other game for this mechanic? Because there's already a way that, works much better than this. And then other times it's like, wow, that's totally not what I expected because you guys didn't follow the normal formula. So yeah, it goes both ways. And so I'm hoping Witcher 3 will live up to how awesome it looks in those gameplay clips, which are like borderline unbelievable. And I'm enjoying Dragon Age Inquisition, but I'm kind of ready for another open world RPG already, even though I'm not even done with Dragon Age yet.
Wow.
Skyrim was one of my favorite games. Then Dragon Age, I'm enjoying it a lot. And, I'm looking forward to, a third one. And then while I'm playing that, I'll probably be looking forward to whatever Skyrim's coming next.
Oh yeah, man. Wow, Dragon Age is good, but I don't think Dragon Age is quite in the same league as Skyrim, quite frankly. I mean,
not for me either. But
wow.
It's weird because I like storylines a lot. You would think that I would like the Dragon Age thing because they focus on the dialogue and storyline so much, but Skyrim, like the way they manage the open world is really impressive.
Yes, I think going completely off point. Yeah, that open world in Skyrim, in the Elder Scrolls games, in Oblivion and Skyrim is just fantastic. It's like the way that it's totally open. You're almost given no direction. Completely allowed to do whatever you want, and you just.
Well, I'm gonna be comparing Witcher 3 to that, so it has a lot to live up to.
Yeah, maybe too much.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I'm looking forward to the Witcher 3 very much. It looks beautiful. Like you, I'm enjoying Dragon Age Inquisition. I suspect The Witcher will be more in line with Dragon Age Inquisition than Skyrim. I get that kind of feeling. Maybe because it's third person, I don't know. But
hopefully the combat will be more. Like, I don't think you or I are that interested in the combat.
No.
So I hope Witcher 3's combat is better.
The dream, right, is the open world from Skyrim, really, really great combat mechanics, and dungeons from Zelda. That and maybe the story mechanics of kind of something like Dragon Age Origins. If someone can squeeze that shit together into one game, that would be fucking mind-blowing. That'd just be amazing. But I think, The Witcher 3 is one of those games I think, as a huge fan of those type of RPGs, is a game that I'm definitely going to get. Not much else to say about that. I think it could totally poo-poo the bed. But
Yeah.
I have faith that it won't. I think they've got enough budget and enough kind of experience now to actually to pull all of those elements that have been good in the previous games and finally make the masterpiece, So how about you, Himemeto? How are you feeling about Witcher 3?
I still need to play the first two games. I got both enhanced versions in my Steam library, and I will get to those eventually. That's the plan. but probably not before Witcher 3 is out because those are big games. And yeah, that's probably not going to happen, but maybe there will be an enhanced version of Witcher 3 as well, so I might give them the time to fix some shit. Yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. I think the graphics look insane. I don't think my system will be able to run it, not without upgrading it first. I want to look the game as good as it can be, or well, at least in the higher marks. So yeah, exactly. So until I haven't upgraded my system, I probably won't play that game. So there's that. But yeah, that gives me time to finish up the other two first, and yeah, but I will definitely
$5 on a Steam sale by that time.
Yeah, maybe. I'll definitely play it in the sometime in the future because, like I said, it looks amazing and the story looks enticing and everything. And looks cool. Nothing more to say, and looking forward to it.
All right, so we're going to come on to the next on the most anticipated list. So Himameto, take it away. What's next on your list?
Super surprising game, like this really niche indie title. I think it's called Zelda or something. Yeah, Zelda Wii U. I don't know. It's weird. It's by this small company called Nintendo or something.
It's a video game about the grief of a lost father, and it stars Robin Williams' daughter.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. I think it's also a rip of Okami by Capcom, something like that. No, we already had that. It was called Twilight Princess. But yeah, definitely looking forward to the Wii U Zelda game. Small caveat, give me interesting stuff to do in the open world, Nintendo. I don't just want to, ride around on my autopilot horse that doesn't run into trees, which is nice, which is an upgrade from the previous Zelda games, especially Ocarina of Time. God, that was annoying. But, I just don't want to run around and, hey, I can go to that mountain, I can go to that tree and climb it. Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, give me interesting stuff to do besides that and mix up the dungeon formula while you're at it. Get some new stuff in there. You went halfway with Link Between Worlds. Now is the chance to go all the way and just deliver a completely different Zelda game. The purists will probably cry betrayal and everything, but the rest of the people probably will be grateful, even if you shit the bed at some point. But yeah, give us a totally new Zelda experience, something we haven't seen before yet. Now is the time. Do it. I don't really expect it to happen, to be honest, but the hope is still there. So we'll see. Yeah, definitely looking forward to that one. Give me interesting layout of the worlds, interesting stuff to do, and I'm happy.
I would like to think the best about Zelda because it's a long storied franchise, and I've had a lot of fun in the Zelda games previously, but I don't know. I really don't think, in the realm of RPGs, I just don't think Zelda can catch up with games that have kind of gone above and beyond what Zelda can give you. Games like, for example, Skyrim or Dragon Age Inquisition. I mean, don't get me wrong, Zelda is a fundamentally different game. It's not really an RPG. It's like an action-adventure game. But I think that deep kind of fantasy world has been done so well by so many other games that have, that have just been much, much, much more enjoyable than certainly the recent Zelda games.
And the thing is, it doesn't even have to, probably because Nintendo nerds going to buy the game anyway, and those are the only people who bought a Wii U up to this point. So, I mean, I hope Nintendo at least tries to mix it up a little, but to be honest, they don't really need to if they want to sell the game. So we'll see.
But I don't have a Wii U, and hopefully Nintendo is, angling for my dollars. So, I think if they managed to get out a cracking Zelda game that had a beautiful open world and managed to have really kind of interesting mechanics and feel fresh and a great storyline, if they could get out a really fucking game that just looks so enticing, it's like, shit, man, I gotta play that, then, that would be another reason for me to buy a Wii U. It's getting close. I mean, they do have some really great games. They got the Mario Kart game there. I mean, I kind of
Bayonetta 2. Still need to get that one.
Yeah, I've not played either Bayonetta games, and see, every time I hear the word Bayonetta, I just think of the Viennetta ice cream cake.
Yeah, me too. Fuck.
Those are amazing. I've got one of those in the freezer actually.
Yeah.
Right now, but
Perfect.
actually I want to eat it. But anyway, I don't know why that came to mind, but that's completely pointless really. But yeah, but you know, a fucking amazing Zelda game. They've already got the amazing Mario game, the Mario 3D World, right? I mean, I look at that and I think, shit, I want to play that.
Fun.
They got the Smash Brothers game. They got the Mario Kart game. I think if they get a really major, fantastic Zelda game, that would almost be the tipping point. Add a Metroid game into that, and I'm sold.
Yeah,
I think,
imagine if they announced Metroid Prime 4 for the Wii U.
Don't want it. Not Metroid Prime 4, something different. Metroid Prime 3 totally wore out the formula, I think.
Yeah, I guess.
So
but I don't want a sequel to Other M either.
I don't mind that.
Yeah.
I
do mind that.
Most people mind that.
I think if they made a sequel to another Other M.
Yeah.
I don't mind a sequel to Other M, but they just need to get it right. I feel there's real great potential there, so I'm not adverse to seeing another game like Other M. They need to just get the story right. They need to get the exploration right, which they didn't quite get right with Other M. Yeah, and keep those amazing bosses, man, because they were awesome. So, speaking of another thing that has a great setting, that's going to be my last anticipated item for 2015, and that's going to be Yakuza 5 and Yakuza 0. So, those games have finally been announced and are coming to next gen. Well, actually, Yakuza 0 is coming to next gen, but Yakuza 5 is finally going to be released on PSN on PlayStation 3 later this year. So I'm a really big Yakuza fan. Those games are they're just great. But they're not perfect, of course. I mean, the mechanics of the Yakuza franchise are ancient. They're doddery. I mean, they feel like they never quite evolved past PS2 era. And the fighting mechanics are straight out of, like, I don't know if anybody remembers them, the old, the Die Hard arcade machine. And like Dynamite Cop and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Basically, Yakuza's basically that, but with much, much better graphics and an amazing story. But the story is told through old school text boxes like the old Zelda games. But there's just a whole shitload of them. But the humor's just absolutely hilarious. It's really, really charming. It's got that typical Japanese style sense of humor, where it really makes you laugh because it's totally bonkers and off its head. And somehow, though, it also has that Ghibli thing going on where, I don't know, a character's kindness to each other somehow is very touching somehow, you know. So you end up getting like quite emotional about the characters in those games. So it's a really, really good balance. And I highly recommend the people who haven't played Yakuza to go and play those, because I think it's a natural progression on from Shenmue, and Shenmue was a fucking masterpiece. And there's so much open world stuff to do as well. You know, the massage parlors. I mean, there's for example, people who haven't played the Yakuza games. Here's a good example of a mini game that is just wonderful. 2 mini games actually, I'll tell you. The massage parlor, where basically you've got to hit the right combination of buttons to keep your meter in the right place, where this girl gives you an erotic massage. And if you fall down too much into the cold, basically she says, "Oh, you're just not interesting," and then it's game over. And if you go over the top, of course, like, "Oh no, you've exploded!" Like,
wait, so if I go to a massage parlor in Japan, if I'm not horny enough, they'll kick me out?
Yeah, apparently. But it's a really mad, hilarious mini game. And another one is ping pong, where the better you play, the more the girl's robe that you're playing against falls open, and you get more cleavage. And the thing is, if you stare at her cleavage, right, there's this button which ramps up your power shot. You basically press the button, it zooms in on her cleavage. And your power meter goes up.
Where can I buy this game? Tell me now.
Amazon. So basically, there's a whole bunch of like crazy, stupid shit that just makes you laugh no matter how many times you see it. Yeah, and they didn't release 5, obviously, in the West, so they never translated it. And finally, Sega are going to do that. So I'm really, really looking forward to finally playing 5, even though reputation says it isn't as good as 4 and has these really annoying driving sections which you can't skip, which everybody universally fucking hates. That aside, I'm really looking forward to that game because I'm a big fan of the franchise, and also the next generation one just looks beautiful, and yeah, I'm just totally down for that. So probably you guys haven't played the Yakuza games, I'm guessing, but how about you, Alexander Arts? How are you feeling about Yakuza?
I'm interested in it, but like the whole translation thing just fucked over my whole interest in it when it was first coming out. You know, I really loved Shenmue. I borrowed my friend's Dreamcast and played that. We talked about that in the past. Like, it was inspiring to both of us. And, Yakuza seems really similar in a lot of ways, so I would have liked to get into it, but, their whole bullshit about translating, the racists at, Sega who hate every other country. I don't know what their problem is, man. They're just, every opportunity Sega has to, like, do something lame, they just jump on it. They're all about it. So I don't, that should be their new slogan. All about the lame. Oh yeah. Sonic Boom. Okay.
Oh no.
Yeah, did you ever get around to murdering those guys at the Sega headquarters? You said you were gonna go over there.
Oh, yeah, why do you think they're now translating Yakuza 5? I tell you what, it wasn't because of any fan pressure, it's because I turned up there with a fucking knife.
Oh, okay.
See?
Anyway,
cause and effect.
This is another situation where if they made a HD collection of like Yakuza,
well, they did.
Then I could catch up. Oh, really? 1 and 2 and stuff?
Yeah, they haven't translated it. Bastards.
Fucking A.
But you can now get for example.
See, this is bullshit, man.
It is bullshit. But I entered the franchise in the third one, on the third game, and then played the fourth one too, and then was really annoyed that they didn't translate the fifth one. But you can go back and play 3 and 4 on the PlayStation 3. I mean, they are excellent games. I'm not joking.
So 1 and 2 were they both PS2 games?
Yeah, they were both PS2 games. Yeah.
3 and 4 are PS3, and 5 is PS4.
No, 5 is PS3. It's not been translated for over a couple of years now. It's really frustrating for fans of the series. It's like, hey, yeah, guess what? You get the game 3 years late.
It's frustrating for me, and I'm not even a fan.
Yeah. Oh, man. So, but yeah, if you specifically Yakuza 4, if you haven't played that game, geez, that is a crackjack game. That's amazing.
Can I play Yakuza 4 without having played Yakuza 3, story-wise?
Credit where credit's due. On all the Yakuza games, they have the option in the menu, you can watch movies of which basically, in cutscenes, explain everything that ever happened in the Yakuza games. I mean,
that's cool.
They are majorly long as well. They're like, watch the movie for Yakuza 1, Yakuza 2, Yakuza 3, like they're separately, like, delineated. You can, like, it's literally like 30 minutes, but.
Very good idea.
Yeah, it's excellent. So credit where credit's due. They did the good thing there by letting you catch up. So with that, we've come to the end of our most anticipated. But hey, that's our opinion on the most anticipated media of 2015. So what are your opinions, oh valued listener? So feel free to fill up the comment section as if it were a dirty Swedish whore. And with that, we've come to the end of this week's visit to the ocean floor. So please join us next time an old fisherman tells you that the sea air will do you some good. Until then, this is the Radiophonic Sea Creatures